Welcome to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher, where we take you behind the scenes with peak performers to learn what makes them tick and discover how you can apply their lessons to your life. I'm your host, Molly Fletcher. What comes to mind when you think of Southwest Airlines? Probably their values and culture. That's what landed Southwest on Fortune's top 10 most admired companies in the world list 23 consecutive times. As Senior Vice President of Culture and Communications, Ginger Hardage spent 25 years quarterbacking the values at the heart of Southwest's culture in what she calls her dream job. As a member of the executive leadership team, Ginger led a team of 150 people responsible for building and sustaining the legendary Southwest culture. She's just launched a new brand, Unstoppable Cultures, with a mission to help organizations create and sustain cultures of enduring greatness. On today's show, Ginger shares the secrets behind Southwest's culture and breaks down how you can build a healthy, strong culture in your own organization. Let's get right to it. Here's my conversation with Ginger Hardage. Well, Ginger, it is such a pleasure to have you on. You know, Southwest is so famous for its company's culture. And, you know, it's actually been on Fortune's most admired companies list for 23 consecutive years, which is unbelievable. And you were there for 25. Kind of to kick this off, right? Tell me how you would describe Southwest culture.
Well, thank you, Molly. Yes, it is. It's an amazing company. It was started in 1971. One of the co-founders was Herb Kelleher and also Colleen Barrett. And both of them started off with an amazing organization. And the values of the company really do describe the culture well, because the company's looking for employees with a servant's heart, people who are willing to serve others, because the company is in the customer service business. And they're looking for a fun-loving attitude, which a lot of companies, I wouldn't say is part of their values, but it's definitely part of Southwest Airlines, and you feel it immediately from the flight attendants when you get on board or with the employees you encounter in the airport. But you also have to have, the other thing they're looking for is a warrior spirit, because the airline business is a very specific business. It's a tough business, and just making sure our employees know that when they're coming in and joining the organization, it is definitely working hard, but also having a good time.
Oh, well, and you know, I've been fortunate enough to experience that firsthand, and I can certainly attest to that. So what a wonderful experience they're creating for, you know, for not only obviously their customers, but their employees too. You can tell they love what they do and they're happy. And obviously all that trickles down.
Absolutely, Molly, because, you know, for example, in the retail business, you know how great the turnover is in so many areas. But being in the consumer business, Southwest Airlines, the turnover is around 2%. That's voluntary turnover. Of course, some people are asked to depart from the organization, but 2% voluntary turnover, which is amazing. So people stay for a very long time.
And tell me, from your years of experience in this space, why does culture matter so much, right? I mean, it feels obvious, but it takes energy and time to create a culture that matters.
I think all of us want healthy organizations, and we want sustaining organizations. And if you can build a culture where the people are engaged in the organization, I think all of us want organizations where our employees act like owners. And having that type of ownership creates that connection with the customer. And it really, if you start with happy employees, you're going and give them all the information they need to act in line and act like owners. You're going to have happy customers, and you're going to have happy shareholders. And it's just a complete cycle that goes all the way around. It goes straight to the bottom line. So having a strong, healthy organization can set you up for incredible benefits from a business standpoint, but also what you're able to do to give back to society, what you're able to do. I think about just the number of employees that Southwest Airlines has taken care of through the years and how many homes that's allowed people to buy, how many through the employees, and how many children it's put through college. But then it flows to the customers. And then because of the low-cost model, what it's been able to do for the customers, how many people have been able to start their business and actually travel and build their business because they can afford to travel on Southwest Airlines. Or other ways lives have been changed by people being able to go on incredible vacations or stay connected with their family, or how many people have actually met their spouse on Southwest Airlines.
Oh, I'm sure.
It is called the Love Airline because that is the stock symbol LUV. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, how does Southwest hire, train, and evaluate based on this mindset, this belief, and certainly these core values?
Oh, absolutely. You're looking for the employees that possess those values. I think all employers know that you're looking for employees that are going to reveal your values and already possess your values coming into the organization. So every position's different. So if you're hiring for a pilot, or if you're hiring for someone who's going to be in a call center, you're looking for some different skills, but in every case, you're looking for attitude. And that would be the advice I'd give any organization starting up, would be really look at hiring for attitude, because the character of our organizations are definitely expressed by our people. And if our people are buying into our values of our organization, their job really becomes a calling, much more than just a job. And I think that's what all of us are looking for in our organizations, is to have more people who look at their job as a calling and are really able to express themselves when they come to work every day.
And so what do you think are some of the questions that you ask? You know, if it's whether it's a flight attendant or a pilot, what are the kinds of questions that are asked to sort of assess someone's attitude or to really gain clarity on, is this person really a happy, thriving individual or not? I mean, so that those things obviously can then transfer over to the work that they would do. Take me into that room, if you would, right, with the person interviewing that person.
Yeah, one of the most important things about going into the interview is not only would you have a recruiter, but I think it's important to have peers who you doing peer interviews as well. And the companies that do that know that they're getting in the right kind of fit for their organizations. So the types of questions would be, instead of saying, what would you do? The question would be, what did you do when a particular situation, maybe how you diffused a difficult situation with a customer? Because any organization in the customer service business is looking for people who are comfortable dealing with the customer, who put people first, who have that servant's heart, who want to serve others. So you would have the situation where you have the peer questioning, as well as questions that would be, how did you handle a particular situation?
It sounds like the Southwest culture is one in which where they want to make sure that the flight attendant knows how to handle difficult situations on an airplane and that they would handle them like an owner would, right? And we've seen some recent stuff where that hasn't always been the case. What are the kinds of things that happen to get your flight attendants to behave in a way like an owner would?
One of the things that I think great organizations do is they really hire tough so they can manage easy.
Nice.
So you spend a lot of time, and that was a great book that was written by Mel Kleiman about hiring tough so you can manage easy. And it's a great philosophy because you're going to be spending much more time bringing people into your organization during the hiring process, because all of us know how hard it is once you get someone in and they're not the right fit to fire someone. So it's much better to spend the time getting the right people into your organization. Too often people will be too quick to hire, and that really does always tend to bite us So taking the time to really look at who's coming into the organization, asking them about their prior experience, and really learning from how did you handle difficult situations, and polling that throughout the interview process, and making sure they meet a lot of different individuals who are doing their kind of work throughout the interview process.
So you have obviously thousands of employees. How do you communicate sort of this purpose, this vision, these values, right, across the entire organization? A lot of people that listen to this podcast are emerging leaders or leaders of large organizations with lots of employees that whether they report directly to them or to their employees, their teammates. How do you ensure that you can sort of push this mindset down so they're not just words, but they're actions throughout the entire organization, not just obviously at the top with the people that maybe were instrumental in writing them?
Absolutely, Molly, because your purpose has to be something that's living and breathing, and your values have to be as well throughout the organization. So the strongest companies are one that just really thread it throughout the employee experience. So it definitely starts with the hiring, but they take it through the onboarding, through the training, through the customer service delivery, and all the way through performance management. So make sure that you're being managed against the values. So even as all of us at Southwest as leaders, were judged against how well we were leading the values and living those values. Because all of us know that as a leader, how you act always trumps what you say. So employees are looking to us as leaders to make sure that we are living the values of our organization. So I experienced that early on at Southwest. I was hired in 1990, and my long list of onboarding activities, one of them was to hear Herb Kelleher, our founder, was speaking. And so I went to this event, and you expect to see that at the time he was the CEO, he would be behind the podium, but no, I arrive and Herb is serving food, because not enough wait staff had showed up. So what does that immediately challenge me to do? It's like, oh my gosh, that's my leader. Here I go grab 2 plates of food and start serving food as well. And I just think as leaders, we can never forget that how we act always trumps what we say. And we have to be continuing to live that every day. And the other thing that a lot of organizations want to do when they're rolling out their culture, their purpose, is maybe check that box. Okay, we did that. Reinforcing your culture and keeping your purpose and your values at the forefront is a lifelong ambition. It never ends. It's not one and done. It's continuous repetition. And I think if any time leaders fall short, it's because they're probably not realizing how many times it takes to repeat a message before it truly is heard throughout the organization. And then you're also having new people enter your organization all the time. So finding ways to do storytelling is a great way to do that, and continuing to reinforce the values and your culture through storytelling. And I can give you some good examples of that.
Tell me some more. I would love them. I mean, when you think about the Southwest way, right, in action, I mean, you certainly shared the story about serving food, which is just awesome. I love that. What are a couple other moments, you've had so many in your time, where that Southwest way came to life, right, where people could see it?
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that is incredible are the number of emails or letters, phone calls that customers send in voluntarily about the experience they've had on a Southwest flight. And one that I will never forget was we got a letter, and it was about one of our pilots. And what had happened, the pilot had been at the ticket counter and realized that a situation was going on, and realized something in the situation. A customer was trying to travel with a pet that didn't have the approved pet carrier. And our pilot just, took out his own money, bought the pet carrier so the gentleman could travel. And that probably would have been the end of the story, because the pilot just went on his way, went on his trip. But we got a letter from the family of that customer who said, "You have no idea what your pilot did for our family, because that was our brother, and he was homeless, and he was estranged from our family, and he would never have returned home that day without his only possession, his pet. So that is all about hiring for attitude, because obviously you want pilots who have the utmost skills, and at Southwest Airlines, absolutely. But you also want people with great attitudes who are going to recognize something in that human condition and realize that people travel for all different types of reasons. And as leaders, how can we capture those stories and then tell them again within the organization? So for new leaders, I would encourage them to keep a journal, a story journal, about the stories that they encounter or the stories that they hear within their organization, as a way to really bring their purpose and their values and their culture to life, because stories are what really connect us. They humanize our similarities with others, and it's a great way of role modeling the way that we want all of our employees to live.
Well, it's cool. I mean, I'm learning so much about how you've threaded it through and why that culture is so alive at Southwest, because, there are so many organizations that take the time to create a mission statement or a purpose statement or their values, but they don't live it. And what I think is just powerful is that you're sharing the ways in which organizations can thread it through daily so they live it. It's awesome.
Well, here is something that a lot of leaders, I think, would appreciate. The CEO of Southwest Airlines, Gary Kelly, every Sunday night or Monday morning records a message to all employees. I mean, it's every week he does this. And it's his way of connecting to employees. Employees can hear his voice. If they want to dial up and listen in, or they can read it on the company intranet. And what Gary does, he kind of recaps maybe what has gone on in the last week, what might be coming up in the week ahead. But one of the things he does, and this is a great takeaway, he ends every one of them with a shout out to an employee somewhere in the organization. And usually those come from customers who are saying, Joe in Seattle did this great thing. Here's the story. And Gary tells their story and reinforces how they are living the company's values, either that warrior spirit, servant's heart, fun-loving attitude, how they're reinforcing the values of the company, or how they're living the company's purpose is to connect people to what's important to their lives. So he's always reinforcing and hitting on that. So I think that's a great lesson for all leaders, is knowing that how important it is to reinforce and continually repeat the messages and give new ways of bringing life to our values and our culture.
Well, that's cool, because I can imagine people, all the employees, are always listening, maybe with bated breath, thinking, man, I wonder if he's going to say my name right. I wonder if that really cool thing that happened last week that he'll, know about. I would imagine sometimes that is exciting for an employee in such a large organization to hear a leader like that say their name and appreciate what they did. That is super cool. I love that. So, it goes without saying, right? I think it's important to sort of note that your purpose, the Southwest purpose, if you will, is to connect people to what's important in their lives through friendly, reliable, low-cost air travel. So how did you arrive there? And one of the things that I wonder is, as an organization as large as Southwest is, I think oftentimes people envision a bunch of highly paid executives sitting in a room for days and days, and then they come out with this statement. And now they want everybody to believe it and live it. How did you come to that statement, number one? And two, how do you then get it to a place in which the organization and the people believe it?
My advice to companies is to make sure your purpose feels like a pair of old shoes, and that you never want to introduce something to your organization that feels strange or foreign or not authentic. So purpose really does have to come from your people and how they are living throughout your organization every day. So absolutely, the leaders of Southwest worked on the purpose, but we also had employees have a lot of input on that purpose. So that once, several years ago, when it was introduced to the entire organization, it didn't seem strange. It was something they were already doing, and it was authentic. So they were already connecting people to what's important in their lives, because people travel to funerals, people travel to business, they travel to weddings, they travel to vacations, all kinds of reasons people travel. And knowing that could differentiate Southwest is definitely the low cost, and who else could do it in a friendly manner as well. So hitting on all points that truly did differentiate Southwest Airlines.
You know, there's leaders out there that are listening that are trying to change maybe their company's culture, right? What advice would you give them on how to go about that?
A lot of companies start with, an assessment. Many organizations do an employee survey, so they understand how people are feeling in their organization. And leaders obviously do town halls and have a lot of different meetings with their employees, understanding what the temperament and the feeling of their employees are. My advice on trying to change a culture is doing it slowly and doing it in a way that, with a lot of patience, in a way that the employees can understand where the company's trying to go. And a lot of times companies may need to differentiate between whether they're trying to change the vision or the culture of their organization. Because if the vision is changing to, say, go into another line of business, that's not really changing your core purpose as an organization. You're just changing the vision of your organization. So knowing when to differentiate, whether you're entering a new line of business or because your purpose as an organization could still be the very same.
Yes, absolutely. And so that's really interesting to hear you say that. I mean, to do it slowly, because often leaders, that's hard. That's hard for us to want to do something slowly. We want to make that change fast because maybe we need to, right? Maybe our, stock is dropping, maybe whatever it might be, and we need to make that change fast. But you're saying you really need to do it slowly. How slowly?
Well, making sure that the organization can keep pace with what's happening, really looking at making sure you're doing everything possible from a change leadership standpoint. So if you're trying to change a process in the organization, really taking the time to do all the necessary communication of why the change is necessary, and working with employees on making sure that they have the appropriate training and level of knowledge to help guide the organization and the customers through that particular change. So being methodical and taking the time to have the necessary training. So sometimes turning the battleship can take years, but articulating that vision of where the company is trying to end up and the steps that will be taken to get them there. So that clarity of vision is so important for the leaders to be able to understand. So depending on this level of change, it could take years.
Wow. Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. I would imagine there's other companies that Southwest has looked at and admired and said, wow, you know what? They seem to do things in a way that feels consistent with the way we do, right? That maybe you admire at Southwest a little bit. Tell me, what organizations are those, right? In other words, what can our listeners and who can our listeners look at from an organizational perspective and say, wow, those guys get it and do it as well from a culture perspective?
Well, I think there's some great organizations out there. One of them that we've spent some time with is Chick-fil-A. They're obviously known for their strong values. We both agree on hiring great employees, so definitely connecting in that manner. Disney is another company that we have done some connections with in the past as well, and the way they hire and train their employees and really focus on their vision. But also, there are companies in the technology field because of how much all of our organizations are depending on technology, how we go about doing things quickly, being agile. So we would look at organizations from Google to Apple to look at how to also be very effective in those technology changes that are coming up in the organization.
Well, that's neat because those are other organizations that people can peek at and study to better understand. What are some of your favorite books on understanding and learning how to build a great corporate culture?
I'm a real fan of Pat Lencioni.
Me too. Oh, I love him.
Isn't he?
Oh, he's
Isn't
the
he a
best.
great
Good
speaker and
stuff.
teacher?
Amen. Yes.
So when Gary Kelly became our CEO, Gary was a longtime employee of Southwest, but when Herb Kelleher stepped out of that role and Gary became the CEO, one of the things he did was bring Pat in, and we worked as a leadership team through the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And that was a great experience of making sure a team was cohesive. We held each other accountable. We spoke up. And a great way to start off as a leadership team with working through that experience with Pat.
All of his books, I've read them all. They're amazing. And it's Patrick Lencioni for anybody that didn't catch that. And he is a good man. I had a chance to have lunch with him and was super grateful for that. Tell me this, what are some of the biggest culture killers?
It's not walking the talk and leaders who say one thing and do another, because that leads to such toxicity within an organization. Because if your leader expects you to act one way and they're not behaving that way, that's a buzzkill. So that is the quickest way to get ejected from Southwest Airlines, is not living the values and not leading that way within the organization.
That's so important. So if you're sort of in middle management and you've got an unbelievable CEO, as you do, that is communicating weekly, clearly cares a lot about his people, what can the middle manager do to obviously lead their way? But what are some of the things that you would advise somebody like that to do to make sure that they're continuing to thread the culture and the purpose through their team? Maybe it's a leader that has 10 direct reports and then layers of employees underneath that. How does that person do some of the special things that obviously your leader is doing already?
Absolutely. A lot of times mid-level managers think of their organizations as they're part of the organization as their own company and how they're leading it. And to the extent that they can help those employees find their calling, I think that's so important. One of the things they might do is an employee survey. We have done that in this great question we have asked before that I encourage others to do as well is, how do you think of your job? Is it a job? Is it a stepping stone in your career, or is it a calling? And understanding how many of your employees truly see their job as a calling. And at Southwest, the first year we did that, 71% of the employees said that their job was a calling. So as leaders, as mid-level leaders, we need to help our employees find their why and why they are doing what they're doing in their jobs, how they help find purpose in their jobs. I thought of an example of something that happened to me a few years back. I had a flat. And here I am. Okay, great. I'm running late. I have a flat. I got lucky. I live in Dallas, so some City of Dallas sanitation workers see me and come over and say, "Can we help you?" And I was like, "Yes, please." And, changed my tire. And I thanked them profusely, said, "This isn't your job. Thank you so much for helping me." And I'll never forget what one of them said. He said, "No, our job is to make our city better. And this was just one way we did that today."
Oh.
So that always stuck with me was, man, their leader did a fabulous job of helping those employees understand their why. Their why wasn't just to work in the sanitation department. Their job, their why was to make their city better. And they had the freedom to do that. So I think as leaders, in helping our employees understand their why and not being too prescriptive in how they live that, and allowing employees to express their personalities. So we'll get all sorts of wonderful surprises by what people are expressing from their heart.
That is good stuff. And many of the people, they obviously can't see you. Ginger is a very pretty blonde woman, so I'm sure those guys were happy to change your tire.
Oh, Molly, you're really very funny, Molly.
Well, I tell you what, I'll play that chick card with a flat tire any day of the week. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't need to get my hands all dirty.
I was kind of dressed up that day.
I know.
Not what I wanted.
Amen.
Absolutely.
I know. I love it. So you recently launched Unstoppable Cultures, a brand designed to help organizations create cultures of enduring greatness, which is super cool. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, thank you, Molly. I just had the honor to have a ringside seat being involved in that for 25 years at Southwest Airlines. I know there's a great thirst out there from other organizations to have healthy, strong cultures. And if I can pass along any of those lessons learned, that's what I feel like my purpose is now, is to help as many organizations as I can on some of those lessons. So whether it's speaking to a group of leadership or working inside the organization, helping understand where some of the building blocks for culture might not be as robust as they should be in their organizations, whether it's their communications isn't strong enough to their employees, their recognition isn't great, they could be having a particular issue with turnover, just helping those organizations understand what particular issues they're trying to correct and what some other wonderful companies who are known for their outstanding cultures have done to address that in the past. So I think all of us are looking to have employees who act like owners and just the mission of making corporate America the best it possibly can be.
Mm-hmm. How can people find out more about this?
Absolutely, at unstoppablecultures.com, and we're starting a newsletter and would love to build a community around folks who want to talk about the issue of building healthy, strong cultures in their own organizations.
And they can text, I think, Unstoppable, right, to 345-345.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Get
Molly.
the newsletter. I'm all over that. I'm signing up, girl. That sounds like good stuff. Okay, so we end every podcast with rapid fire, which is really fun. And you obviously have tremendous self-awareness, so you're going to be able to rattle these off. So I'm going to fire some questions off, and I just want you to tell us what comes to mind. Does that sound good? You got it? You ready?
I got it. I'm ready.
Buckled up? All right, good stuff. Okay, so are you a morning person or a night person?
Well, I am both if I've had a nap.
Nice.
So,
wow.
Yeah, a little 10-minute nap, and I can go all night.
Unbelievable. That's pretty impressive. I've never really had anybody say they're both. Wow. Good stuff.
With a nap.
With a nap. All
right.
With
a nap.
All right. So one word to describe yourself.
Enthusiastic.
What's your favorite book?
Empire of the Summer Moon. And it's not a business book, but it was about the Comanche Nation. I have a real interest in Native American culture and in history, and that was just a book that I truly enjoyed.
What's your favorite travel destination?
Oh, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Again, because I love Native American culture, and it's such a Zen city, and it's very easy to get to on Southwest Airlines into Albuquerque.
Boy, that was a softball for you. Yeah, perfect. And so what is something you can't live without?
I can't live without lists, either on my phone, and I'm still one of those people who makes some paper lists every once in a while, but being able to, I think a lot of us are doers, and I want to make sure that I'm hitting on all cylinders. So it's a list.
Who's the person that's made the biggest impact on your career?
On my career, it would probably be my two leaders at Southwest Airlines. Definitely Gary Kelly, who's the CEO and was my boss for many years. And prior to that, Colleen Barrett, who is now the president emeritus of Southwest, and who from the very beginning started this amazing culture at Southwest Airlines with Herb Kelleher. So those two bosses, Gary Kelly and Colleen Barrett.
Neat. What's your best career advice that you've ever received?
Treat others as you would like to be treated, and truly understanding. And one of the things I did with every time we got a new employee in my department. And it was a department of about 150 people. So I wasn't always able to interview all of those people, anyone before they joined. But something I did, I always had breakfast with them after they joined because I really wanted to understand what their goals were, what their family was like. So I think really my best advice is really treat others like you would like to be treated, really get to know people, understand what their long-term ambitions are, what drives them, and taking a personal interest in people. Too often workplaces can be too cold, and I like to know when somebody's celebrating, going out with somebody new and they're excited about it, or they're buying their first home, and really sharing those important moments in lives of their employees. And that reminds me of something that Southwest also does very well. And there is a group that reaches out anytime an employee has a major life moment on behalf of the CEO. So if you get married, you have a baby, there's a death in your family, any of those major life moments, the Office of the CEO wants to be aware of them and recognize them. So that's just so important of having, when you're in a large organization or a small organization, knowing that people truly do care about you as a person.
No question. That is another really, really cool tip. So thank you for sharing that. This show is called Game Changers with Molly Fletcher. So my last question to you today is, what game changer inspires you and why?
The game changer that inspires me the most is my mother. She's 92 years old, and she is still accumulating things she wants to do differently in life. And I think all of us want to have that zeal and that quest for greatness and doing wonderful things throughout our lives. So whether she's going to conquer something new in the kitchen or in her garden or in a relationship, I just want to be the type of person that is continually doing something new and making a connection with people for the rest of my life.
Wow, she sounds amazing. Wow, shout out to Mom. She's a rock star. 92, boy.
92. I think most of our moms are rock stars, don't you, Molly? And I think the influence that our parents have on us is just astounding.
Well, I can tell you I'm 46 years old and I talk to my mom every single day, and my dad. And I don't know if that's good or bad, right or wrong, but it's what I do, and it keeps me centered and grounded. And she's my best girlfriend in the whole world. And as is really my dad, obviously, a wonderful role model. So I am forever grateful for the parents that I've been able to be so blessed to have, because I know not everybody has that, and it's certainly a pretty special thing. So I love that it's your mom. That is obviously something I can relate to and certainly connect to. So that's great. Good for you. Well, Ginger, thank you so much. You are such an inspiration to so many, and your information and knowledge and experiences with Southwest around culture are super powerful. And I know so many of our listeners will get so many nuggets that they can deploy in their own lives. So thank you so much.
Well, Molly, thank you. It's been a great time visiting with you, and here's to more unstoppable cultures in the future.
Thanks, as always, for listening to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. There you can listen to previous episodes and leave us a review, which helps other people find out about the show. For more about me, visit mollyfletcher.com. Until next time, stay curious and be bold.